In today's show, we're going to learn how to turn my lights on and off. What? What we're going to do is we're going to learn about APIs using Power Automate HTTP request. And I know it sounds super scary, super nerdy. I promise it's kind of nerdy, but it's not super scary. I'm going to break it all down. I'm not a developer. You're not a developer. But we're going to learn how to interact with this together so we can do bigger and brighter things in the future. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with PowerApps 911, those guys. And today, we're going to dive into controlling things. So what we're going to do is I've got a smart dimmer switch, I got a smart electrical outlet, and we're just going to talk about how you can control those with Power Automate. And the idea is we're going to use PowerApps to trigger Power Automate. I know, lots of fun. We're going to get to talk about the HTTP request. We're going to talk about flows in PowerApps. We're also going to dive into just the inner workings a little bit of how APIs work, because you probably don't have the same light switches as I do. Maybe you do. They're the pretty common brand, Casa, I don't know. Whatever, I'll show you what they are in a minute. But what we really want to do is just kind of break it apart. The other cool thing we're going to do is I've got this handy dandy little Stream Deck, right? And so I can press the button on the Stream Deck and be like, hey, I want to turn the lights off in this joint. Off. I'm in the dark. Oh no. 100%. Whoa, da-da, we're in the lights, and probably more like 75%. So we'll also talk a little bit about this. We won't get into these specifics today, but at least we'll set the tone so in the future you guys will know what is and isn't possible. So, sound like fun? Does to me. So switch over to my desktop and take a look. Okay, so over here on the desktop, here's what we got. I built a Power App to trigger all the flows. We're going to really concentrate on the flows. But remember, if you're a subscriber over to curated library in PowerApps 9.1, training.powerapps, I don't know, the site that I put up there, my training site, if you're over there, you can download this working app and my handy dandy cheat sheet of all the different code snippets so you can just cut and paste. Because nothing here is going to be unique to me, right? If you have a Casa Smart Dimmer Switch HS2220, the code's exactly the same for you. And the neat thing about their API is that their API is not, is pretty universal. So the same code that I use to turn on and off the switch will also turn on and off the plug, which is what Pac-Man over there is plugged into. So we'll turn that off in a second. But here you can see I made a simple little app. And so with the app, I can adjust the brightness. I can just go turn it way down. And look at that, after a few seconds, I'm in the dark. Or I could completely turn it off. Bye-bye. It's hard for you to tell, but the lights are now all the way off. But now we'll turn them back on. And then we'll turn it way back up here to about 80. It's usually we're like 75, 75. Let's do 75. And so there you go. There's my normal recording. So we're doing all of that by hitting an API endpoint via Flow. So Flow is actually doing all the work for us. You'll also see over here, we're not going to go any further, but I got a smart plug so I can turn the outlet, like so Pac-Man's plugged in right now. I can turn his outlet off. And in just a moment, there you go. It's, once again, not exactly great to see. I should have done that when the lights were all the way off, but Pac-Man's now turned off. Fun. So how does all of this work? That's your question. So what the real magic here is it is our friend Flow. And so in Flow, what we're going to do is we're going to build a flow that makes all the calls that we need to do in order to do this work. And so instead of messing with this one, I've got a bunch. So you can see that these different ones here are all triggered by Power Automate. This is the one that I was playing, which we're going to recreate in a second. And then I also have this one down here called Adjust Dimmer. And so this is actually the one that gets triggered by the Stream Deck. So it had to have a special flow that I set up for that. Anyway, we don't care. What we're going to do, new flow. And we're going to do an instant flow because anytime I'm learning and playing, so like 2 weeks ago when I set out to figure all this out, I went and made myself a manually triggered flow and just called it Casa is fun. There we go. We'll create this flow. The manual trigger option just lets us set it and, kind of make it go as we need. Okay, so there you go. We're done now. So now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to post to an API. Remember, not a developer either. It's okay. It's just text in curly brackets. That's all this is. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a new step. And if you search in here, it is an HTTP. And so there's 3 different ones here. I've been doing this for many, many years. I've never used either of these other two. It's always this top one. Now do note this is premium. So, it is going to require premium licensing. I can't do anything about that. It's the price of admission here. But either way, it's good to learn because sometimes, as you learn this API stuff, so this stuff is premium, But later on, when we do a video on the SharePoint REST API, you make these same API type calls, but you can do those for free because that's a standard connector. And I think the Azure AD one is also a standard connector. So, or maybe that's premium. I don't remember. But we'll learn more. So even if you're like, I can't do premium flows, this is just about learning as much as it is about like the end result. So we're going to choose HTTP. All right, so now I ask a bunch of questions I didn't know the answers to. So I did some Binging, right? I actually use Bing, believe it or not. No, Microsoft doesn't pay me. I like Bing. And so I eventually found this person, joshuatz.com. I don't know. And because what happened here is we go looking for APIs for different devices, because like I said, you all don't have CASAs, you all have different stuff. Some manufacturers support it. They publish their APIs. You can just grab the info straight from them. That's ideal. In the case of this one, a bunch of people have had to reverse engineer and figure it out. And so what I do is I go and find somebody who's already figured all this out. And he's got a bunch of words, right? There's all this stuff. I didn't read any of this. I don't care. But I scroll down far enough and I'm like, all right, the very first thing that we're going to have to do, because, you don't want everyone in the world turning your lights on and off, right? Hopefully I don't show you guys my password so none of you turn my lights on or off. But when you do that, the first thing you have to do is you have to get an auth token. You have to pass a username and password. So I look down here, his very first thing, which usually is get auth token. Now, so here he's saying, hey, the path is just slash. So what path? Okay, so he's going to use this path. So I'm going to copy this, go back over here. And so that goes in the URI. Now, this particular API is a little different because a lot of times there'll be like slash turn on or slash, update versus slash get or different slashes. This particular API, it's all the same URI. So we call that same URI all the time. Now we need a method. So the method is like, how do you want to interact with that API? Method is post. Fair enough. Usually, if you think about it, it's either going to be a get or a post. Post is for you push something out there, and get is you just grab something from there. But a lot of times in these cases, and especially with this one, all the calls are post. But I've never used anything other than get or post in all my years of doing this. So post to this URL. And so then it says, all right, for the body, what goes here? So that's where he has payload. You'll see people call this different things, schemas, blah, blah, blah. You don't care. What you're looking for is the JSON, which is text inside of curly brackets. So I'm going to copy what he has here, and then I'm going to paste it over here. And so now we're going to break it down. Method, login, I don't know, params, app type, whatever, cloud username. And so if you read a little, you would see that he said, hey, whenever I want you to put your own thing in here, I put it in double quotes. So he's saying, put your own thing in there. Fair enough. So where he has the user, and notice that the user's inside double quotes. So I'm going to make sure I put my username in double quotes. I'm going to put in my username. And if I do a good job of editing this video, you won't see my username. But if you do, don't mess with me. And so then for the password, I need that. Let me go figure out what that is. One sec. All right, I'm going to replace this and put in my password. And once again, I'm going to change the password as soon as I hit publish in this video. So if you do see it, it's going to be different, but hopefully you don't. And then last but not least, there's a GUID that goes here. And so I'm like, well, how do I know what GUID it is? I did some reading, some looking around. It turns out that any GUID in the universe works. It just has to be a GUID. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Power Automate expression. And so they have an expression called GUID that will just dynamically create a GUID. And so I just put that, make sure it's between your double quotes because it will go as a string. And so there you go. So this will post the information, my username, my password, and will hopefully get us a token back. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit save. And then this is the beauty of manually trigger. We can just say test and manually and test and run the flow. And this should just, and done, oh my goodness. And this should just go and do it. And then we should see the body of what went out. And more importantly, if you scroll down far enough, here is the info that came back. So there's going to be a body here. And in there is my token, right? Once again, hopefully grayed out. And so I'm going to copy all this because we're going to need it in just a second. So copy that. I'm going to go over here and edit. And so now we know that this gets a token. Yay! That is the most important step. So now we're going to say we're going to add a new step and we're going to need to be able to get that token out because all subsequent calls are going to need the token. So what you're going to do is you're going to use an action called Parse JSON right here. And so what this says is, what JSON do you want to parse? Well, for the content, we want to parse the body of HTTP because that's where we just saw the token lives. So parse that body. And for the schema, we can use this handy button here called generate from sample. And what you're going to do is you're going to paste the data that we just got back. That's the whole reason we did the test, right? It was to prove it worked, but we needed this JSON to prove to ourselves we know how to get the data out. So this, if you say done, this will break that down and this writes a whole bunch of stuff about how to get the data out of those strings. So it's like, oh, there's an email and it's a string. There's a token and it's a string. You know, everything in this particular case is a string, but a lot of times you'll see different data types and stuff there. So remember, if you're using a different API, no big deal. These steps are the same. You're just dumping in some data. You're dumping in the output from the first one and saying parse that. Because the beauty of parsing that is if we we could go right here and I could just do a compose. I just wanted to show you this is here. And so now look, from the parse JSON, it says, hey, there's a body, there's a result, there's an error code, an account ID, a reg time, an email, and a token. And so this will get the token out for us without us having to do anything. So we're going to delete this though, 'cause I don't need that, but I wanted you to see that that's the beauty of parse JSON. Technically speaking, we can get this without the parse JSON's action, but if you're watching this video to learn about APIs, you are not ready to do that. So we're not going to talk about that today. So another new step, HTTP again. You're going to notice a pattern here. So the method is going to be post. The URI is going to be that same one. Now remember, you can use your Windows V if you've used that before, and look at that. There is that same URL again. So I'm going to click on that. Perfect. And so then for the body this time, we'll go back to the little cheat sheet. And so we had get token. We've done that because get device list. So get all your devices requires the token, but not really anything more. So we can copy this out. And if we paste this in down here, ta-da. And then where they have the token, remember this is his way of telling you to put variables. And that's just what his blog said he did. So then now from the parse token, parse JSON, we can get the token. I feel like the Lord of the Rings, right? Like token, ha. No, I know, I'm a dork, whatever. But there you go. So let's try this. So we're going to say test. We'll just rerun our test from earlier. Hey, our flow ran successfully. Now, just because it says successful doesn't necessarily mean it's successful, right? I need to go down here and go check the body and look in the body. Oh, so Shane has an iOS smart plug switch. There's a device ID. It's Shane's office. Who would have guessed? Bunch of data there. And then he also has a smart plug switch, right? That was the switch that turned off Pac-Man. So I've got two different devices in here. Very cool though, right? Because this is showing me that I'm getting the data back. So let's grab this again, Control A, Control C. Let's go edit again. And so what do we want to do? We want to parse the JSON again. So parse JSON. There it is. From the content, HTTP2, yep, that one's body. And then generate from sample, paste in all that junk again. Don't know what it says, don't care. Ta-da! It parsed it down to all the pieces for us. Because what we really want is to get the device ID, right? We want the device ID. Because now that we've got it, we've got my device ID. And keep in mind, like in this case, the device ID wouldn't change all the time. So while every future run, I will always need to get a token, once I kind of figure out how all this works, I can just grab the device ID. My device ID will be the same forever. So I can skip this step and all those flows that I wrote for the real controls that you saw me using. I didn't have to go get them because I knew the device ID already. But right now we're just getting the pieces. So then what do we need again? You probably guessed it, HTTP again. There it is. We'll scroll up. There it is. Method is post, URI, Control V again. Or no, Windows V, not Control V. Oh, put it right there. There is our URL. Oh, such a beautiful feature. And then finally down here for the body, let's go back over here. And so turn device on or off. Cool. We're going to copy this and we'll go back and paste this in. Now, device ID. So we know that probably from parse JSON, we should have that. So parse JSON to device ID. Now, I want you to watch carefully though when I choose device ID. It's gonna be kind of hard to see because flow is pain in the butt. Oh, all right, let's just paste it in. So when we did this, it automatically put HTTP3 inside of a table, or sorry, inside of apply to each, because it knows that this one was spitting out a table of data. And so this is actually going to turn off both my lights and Pac-Man there if we wanted to. So let's just do that to begin with. So let's go back over to the app real quick. Let's turn Pac-Man back on. Turn it on. Wait, one sec. Unfortunately, Pac-Man has a physical button, like a toggle, like I had to go press once the power is on. So it's all on. But so then now what we should see is if we go back to our flow. So for every device that comes back here, remember I have 2 devices, it's going to do this step. It's going to find the device and it's going to set the relay state to 0. So 0 is off. 1 would be on, right? It's a Boolean type of 0, 1 scenario. And then we just need to go put the key in here again. Delete that. And so remember the key comes from the first parse, and there's the token. Something like that. All right, let's hit save. Let's hit test, test, test. Look at that, my lights went out faster than I can do it. Oh, and Pac-Man's like faster than I could process it all happened. That was how fast it ran. It's kind of cool. So you can see the apply to each step ran twice, once for each one. And then down here, you can see, you know, the things were happening. And the reason I keep pointing out that you can see the things that are happening, we've had to use that in the Parse JSON, right? And I guess I should turn the lights back on. We'll just use the PowerApp to do that real quick. PowerApps. Oh, look, I have a button here as well to go find out what the current state is. It should say it's off, but apparently I didn't do something right. Whatever. Turn it back on. Who knows? There you go. I got a bug. But so what I wanted you to understand here, when I was troubleshooting in the beginning, you know, basically a lot of these APIs, you can pass them anything and it'll be successful. You pass me data. Yep, you were successful. But you need to look at the response, the output body, and make sure that it doesn't say, you know, element not found or invalid or token missing or whatever. So just because you successfully ran this HTTP doesn't mean you successfully turned off the device. You're having to look at these outputs. Okay, and that was a lot of my troubleshooting steps. But there you go. We have now worked our way through turning this stuff on, turning this stuff off. Now, there's a lot more that you can do with it. You can set the dimmer states. You can do a lot of that. You know, I don't know. I don't want to like spend a whole bunch of time on this. What I really want you guys to do is start to understand the HTTP here. And to that end, there's one more thing I want to understand. So in this case, I'm turning off all the devices. If I didn't want to turn off all the devices, what if I just want to turn off the first device that I get? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this device ID out of here. And I'm going to grab this and just pull it up. And we're going to delete the apply to each. I don't want to apply to each. I just want to delete the one. So the way that you do that is you have to understand the schema of the data coming back. What? I know. But so if we go back over here and look at the output from this earlier. So let me open up Notepad. One second. Or you know what? Let's open VS Code. I installed VS Code when I was troubleshooting this thing. Are you proud? Probably not. Hang on. Let me grab it. All right. So I did a new file in VS Code and I'm going to select the language and tell it it's JSON because it's going to make my life easier to read stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do our Windows V again and we're going to paste in. So that was the code for turning it off. So I don't want that one. Delete that. We'll paste in this one. And so this was from earlier when we got back all the device, right? We use this to help our parse JSON. So if you look in here, you can kind of read this, right? So it does an error code is one property. And then there's another property called result. And in result, there's a device list. And in the result device list, there is a device ID. Okay. So what we're going to do here, now that we've seen that, is we're going to go back over to flow. So let me put this off to the side because I will never remember all that. But you can pause the video. And so what we want to do here is we're going to say, okay, for the device ID, we're going to write an expression. Right? Remember I'm between those two quotes. I'm going to pull this up so you can see it. And so the expression, I'm going to hit the letter A. I don't know. Go to dynamic content and say from HTTP, from Parse JSON. All right, from Parse JSON. What I really want from Parse JSON is the body. So we do the body. and then get rid of the A. So the A is what let us put this code in here so it wrote that for us. Because now we can go over here and say, all right, from the body, I want to get the, what did I say? I want to get the result. So we're going to do body, and then we're going to do question mark, square bracket, single quote, and result, which is the exact thing that it said over there. And so then now that we've done that, we're going to say, hey, I want to get the 0 result, the very first one. So they start counting at 0. Whoa, that is not how you type any of that though. So we're going to do that. We're going to do question mark, square bracket, that. So that will get the first record in there, like so. And then for the first record, what did I want? I wanted the device list. Oh, you know what? It's not the first result. It's the first device list. Ah, who's doing this? So result, question, doom, device list, or capitalized that way. There you go. And then now we want to do the 0 device. So the first record that comes back. And what do you want from that first record? We want the device ID. Close my single quotes. All right, so that is like terrible to write. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say Control A, copy, say OK. Oh, it doesn't like my expression. What did I do wrong? Oh, I put the 0. The 0 is a number, so it's not a string, Shane. Oh, all right. Well, that was at least one boo-boo I made. What's the other boo-boo I made? Let's scroll back over here and look again. Body, parse JSON 2. Oh, look at that. See, after result, I lost a single quote. Oh, it happens so often in Flow. It likes to delete single quotes. Let's make sure the rest of them are here before I even bother saying okay. Okay, how about that? All right, let's Control A, Control C again. And so I'm going to go right here. I'm just going to add a comment so that way I can see it in the future and you can see it. But so that's what it is. So the body parse, I wanted the result. From the result, I wanted the device list. The device list had multiple. That was the table inside the record. And so by saying 0, this is specifying I want the first thing. When I did the switch, I wanted the second thing, so I put a 1 there, right? It's a whole base 0 counting weirdness. I don't know. Just know the first thing is 0. But I should get the device ID. All right. I feel good. So then this time, if we run this, this should only turn off the overhead lights. So let's try it. Save and test. And it's like faster than I can even say. Look at that. It's done. And voila, the lights are off again. Yay. And if I want to turn the lights on, let's just turn the lights back on with a flow. I'll change the state from 0 to 1. Ooh, you guys want a bonus trick? Instead of this, go back up here, manually trigger a flow. Add an input. Yes, no. Please select yes or no. Cool, cool, cool. And we'll go down here and say, hey, you take from the yes, no. Right? Yes, no actually works in 0 and 1s. Test. Test. Oh, no. We don't want test now. We want manually because I want to provide the input. So we'll manually test this thing. It asked me yes or no. I want the lights back on. So yes, run the flow. Done. Whew, that is really cool. Okay, this video's gotten too long. I know that there's more things in here you want to learn. Tell me the other things you want to learn. Do you want to go deeper down this particular device? Do you want to talk about how the Stream Deck integrates? Do you want to talk about all the things? But I thought this was a great, fun video to start getting you guys thinking about, IoT. You guys ask all the time, like, do a video on IoT stuff. So I have a smart switch. I decided to do it. But I'm automating more and more of my stuff. We're also seeing like industrial customers wanting to automate different switches, assembly lines, doors, that type of stuff. So there's a lot of things you can do once you start to wrap your head around this. Other things we're going to build upon from this is custom connectors. So talking about how to make it so we could do this in PowerApps directly without needing Flow. We'll do that in the future. And it sets the table that we still need to go talk about SharePoint HTTP and Azure AD or the Graph APIs. So there's a lot of more stuff here. We're going to spend this summer. We're going to learn a lot of complex stuff. But it doesn't have to be scary, right? It's hard because you haven't done it before. But remember, JSON is just the hipster way of spelling Jason, where you don't get, you just really got curly brackets around all your text. It's not really scary. APIs are just, I don't know what it stands for. Who cares? We got this. All right. Remember also, if you just want to download my cheat sheet with all the JSON already written out with like explanations of how it all works, then here, I'll show you that to you real quick. Whoop. Right, like so over here, I've just kind of walked you through the whole thing. You can download all the JSON from me. You can download all the working flows, the PowerApps. Just go out to training.poweraapps911.com and go to the curated library, and you can just get this app. So no big deal. Cool. With that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to click on the subscribe button over here so that way you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you need any help or you want to work together, whether your problem's big or small, check us out at PowerApps 911. We do it all. It rhymed. Or if you're looking for more formal training offerings, we have those linked up here somewhere. So check them out. Thanks and have a great day.